This video is going to be about controls, specifically sliders and steppers. So I'm going to add a slider and a stepper into this demo app that I have right here. This is a surprising button. If I click on it, surprise! All right, I don't know why I did that, but that's one thing to mention. A button over here is a control. A control is usually manipulated by some kind of state variable, and it makes a change to that state variable, which results in the sheet being shown. So what we're going to show you are sliders and steppers. They are both ways to change numbers. And let me just show you one of them first. And I'm going to go with a stepper. So state private var number of Nutella jars eaten equals to 0. Okay. And this might be an app where I keep track of the number of jars of Nutella I eat over a day. So what I want to do is I want to have a stepper where there's a plus button and a minus button. And if I eat a jar of Nutella, I can press plus. So if I don't know how to use stepper at all, I can try the component library. Just click up here and search for stepper. And there's going to be documentation, which is actually pretty handy. I think at this point, you should know enough Swift UI to understand how this works. You can see it's got a state private var value equals to 0. It's got increment step, and it's got a whole bunch of other stuff. Sometimes these examples can get pretty complicated. So let's just double click on stepper, and it's actually going to give you a stepper over here. Okay, so it says here stepper value colon value. So for this one, you're just going to do $ number of Nutella jars eaten. It's going to take a binding to that. This is a range. You might recall a range from for each or for loops, and the number can range from 0 all the way to maybe 100. That sounds like a realistic number of jars of Nutella to eat. And this label over here is what you're going to display. So it's going to say text number of Nutella jars eaten. And that's all I wanted to type. But Xcode's predictive code completion has suggested, hey, why don't you put the actual number inside the text? And that sounds like a good idea. Thank you, Xcode predictive code completion. Your name is very long. And what that does is it will actually take all this text and put it inside here, inside the stepper, once Xcode decides to finish rendering this preview, which is taking some time. So I'm going to pause this and come back. And here we are. I should let you know that that took about 5 minutes. So don't feel bad if you ever take a lot of time to figure out how to program something. Xcode seems to trip over itself sometimes when it figures these things out as well. Okay, so there you go. It says number of Nutella jars eaten. If I press this, it should increase and increase and increase. And if I press this, for some reason, it actually decreases. I don't see how that happens in real life. But that's a stepper. It's fairly straightforward. And the formula remains the same. You create some kind of state variable. You pass it into the control as a binding. And it manipulates it for you. I'm going to show you another type of control right now. And that is a slider. So that could be state private var money spent on Nutella equals to 0.0. I'm going to make this a double, all right, because a slider actually expects a double. So I'm just going to go down here. And once again, I'm just going to go to my component library, click on this, and I'm going to search for slider. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here, but I'm just going to double click on this to add it. And it says slider value colon value, which isn't very difficult to use. I'm going to say $ money spent on Nutella. And what that does is it allows me to take this value and increase it using the slider. And there it is. Here's our slider. So I can increase this slider, and you're just going to have to trust me that this number is actually changing behind the scenes. You know what? Let's just have a text underneath that shows what it is. Okay, so I'm just going to say $ money spent on Nutella. Money spent on Nutella. Okay, just be aware that this $ is different from this $, because this $ is for a binding, and this $ is to actually show the amount of money I spent. Now, if I increase this slider, you'll notice that I'm spending a disappointingly small amount of money on my Nutella, because it actually only goes from $0 to $1. This is the point where looking at the documentation is probably helpful. You can go back to the library, or you can hold down your Option key and click on slider, and you can summon the documentation. So down here it says slider consists of a thumb image, that's this thing, and it moves between two extremes of a linear track. Now if you go down, there's a bit more information about how to use it, Now that you have this value colon dollar speed, you know your equivalent is money spent on Nutella. You can have in colon 0 dot 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 100, and that's a range. So let's try it out. So comma in colon 0 dot 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 100 is probably too little. Let's say 100,000. Okay, and now I can increase the amount of money I spend on Nutella from $0 all the way to $100,000. Okay, if I want to have some kind of increment, I believe that's also in the documentation. Hold down the Option key, click on it, and you can always find out more. Just scroll down and you should see some more information about it, such as step. Okay, so you can also have labels for the minimum value and the maximum value, as well as code that you want to run when the editing is happening. So I'm just going to add one more thing that says the step is perhaps $100 increments. That sounds like a reasonable amount of money to spend on Nutella each time. And now I'm just going to be able to change this by $100 increments. Perfect. I should probably rethink my priorities in life.